It can't happen. And one of the things that our community loses on is that we are not yet making full use of woman power. Too many girls, and I do think that men can do something about this, too many little 13, 14, and 15-year-old girls are pregnant. That is tiresome because somebody needs to tell those 18, 19, and 20-year-olds to leave them alone. Obviously, we who are women have said that for a long time. Don't screw the kids. We who are men need to take up that cry. We need to be concerned. We need to keep telling each other that this is, hey man, that is a child. Leave her alone. But men don't want to take up that. They want to say to women, why are you pregnant? Because you had an erection. Why do you think? It's true. It's not fair. No, that's why. Because those girls are doing favors for those boys and they're pregnant and then they are left. And we are losing generation after generation. We in the black community cannot continue to live off of transfer payments. It is so evident that what is needed in 1980s is an economic revolution. I think it's good to vote. I hope that you voted. I hope that you're registered. I like it. Whatever you voted for, I'm glad. But we have clearly seen the limits of the vote. We have clearly seen if the 1984 election didn't teach you anything, it taught you what the ends of voting are. Obviously, you can vote all you want to, but when you get outvoted by 49 states against the District of Columbia, you don't have much of a voice. A gross error was made in 1984, and there's no question about it. Nobody wants to admit it, so what they say is we need more of the error. We don't need more of the error. We need to rethink what it is that we're doing. We in the black community need from our political leaders, if they are to continue to be that, we need a new plan about how we are going forward. I have found it to be very specious that we inhabit the inner city. We are right there in the middle of everything, and we don't own anything. Nobody has said, where's the Homestead Act for the inner city? Nobody has said, why is the federal government holding 60,000 units? Why is that's the federal government? Not to mention what the states hold, which is about another 67,000 units. Why is the government in property? That property should have been sold to somebody. And it seems to me that if black leadership were not so involved in its own little bitty fantasy world, one of the bills that we would have had is a bill for the projects to be owned by the people who live in them. It seems to me that that's crucial. Now, those of you who are following the South African question, you recognize, one, you probably know that I am not in favor of either divestment or boycott. If you don't, I must state that I am not. More, I resent the way that artists and athletes and others are being treated by Trans-Africa, by athletes and artists against apartheid, and by the Patrice Lumumba Club, because somehow or another it is assumed that if you were boycotting South Africa, which none of you have been to probably, if some of you had, you can raise your hand and tell me about it, but most of you haven't. We in the black community don't even hold a passport. We haven't bought a Cougaran in God knows when. We don't even own gold in our teeth. It becomes a very specious thing that we're running around saying what we want for South Africa. And what we're asking for in South Africa is what we have asked for ourselves, and it has not worked that well. It needs to be rethought. We in the black community need to rethink what it is that our priorities are. I don't see how our priority can be a nation 5,000 miles away and not a city that we're living in. Washington, D.C. does not own itself. We who are black do not own that, and somehow or another it becomes more important that we get something for somebody else than we have for ourselves. Now, somebody's going to say that is very selfish of you. I will grant you. But I will also point out that you and I have needs. If you've read the Reagan budget lately, which of course the black leadership group has not, you know that every aspect of the black community is in trouble. You who are students have 58 students right now going down to Washington, D.C. Tip O'Neill said he's going to do what he can. I love it. What he can do is nothing. And you're well aware of that. Those of you who are having student loans, those of you whose loans are guaranteed, those of you on Pell Grant, you can forget it. Unless you're a good, solid B student, you can go do something else with your life. I would urge you to be a good, solid B student. You can do that. You are perfectly capable, and many of you are doing that. You're doing good work, but that's going to be important. But your priority is to stay in school, because if you want to change the world, one of the things that's going to change it is education. You are not going to change the world using the 1960 methods. I saw that they recreated, which I thought was interesting. They recreated the Selma to Montgomery march. They will finish it on Thursday. They're doing the march. I think that's nice. If people want to march, I'm glad. But I know that we did that in the 60s because we were trying to bring attention to a problem. Everybody knows what the problem is in the 80s. There's no question that we have a problem with black people not excelling. Why is that? I don't know. But I know that you can't excel by a group method. I know that you individually have to make up your mind that you are going to excel. I know that we here at the University of Massachusetts can say, well, you know, my teachers are racist. I'm sure that that's probably true in some instances, or maybe most, or maybe all. It doesn't matter. Because I know this, unless you go to class on time, unless you turn the papers in on time, typed, double-spaced, properly spelled, unless you answer questions when you're called on, unless you raise your hand to ask one, you don't know racism. You only know your own incompetence. I know if you buy into the fact that somebody is out there hating you, you have not enhanced your position. You have got to assume a benign world, and you've got to go up against that racism. If it's racism, go up against it. If your teacher hates you because of your color of your skin, make sure that you're doing everything that you could do, and then document it, and we'll get rid of that teacher for you. That's what the laws are for. I know if you give in to it, nobody has won. Rather, not nobody, they won. You didn't. I know that if you decide you cannot excel, that you will not do better, all you've done is to have lost yourself. You cannot assume that the world is out to get you. The world, mostly, for those of us who are black, does not know that you exist. It is your job to make sure that they do. We who are women cannot continue to play that game with we who are men. Clearly, we both have a problem, and clearly the problem needs to be solved by both of us. Don't even begin to stop doing what you can do because you're afraid that the guy that you used to screw last year will be threatened by it. Go find somebody who's not. Give yourself a break. No, I'm serious. Give yourself a break, because you hang around with weak people and then you wonder why you're not getting any place, because you're letting their vision determine who you are. You need to find somebody who believes in you and who will push you to test the limits of your ability. You don't need to hold back, because even if you're excellent, you're going to have a problem. Even if you do everything that you do, you're probably going to have a problem. I want you to test that. I want you to try to be something better than what you think you can be, and I think that's true of we who are women. I don't know what white women go through with white men, but I know that it hasn't seemed to sort of stop them. They seem to go forward all the time, and I know that it's important that you go forward. I know that it's important that you not spend your life trying to figure out which prisoner you're going to marry and how many babies you're going to have before you have a real problem. I know it's important that men be a friend to women, and I wish they would. I wish that they would decide that since they don't in fact get pregnant, perhaps they should not have anything to say about that. And perhaps you and I, who are pregnant, should make a decision about whether or not we're going to have a baby. It's not a hard thing. I'm always amazed that Jerry Falwell, who never in life, who doesn't know a fetus nor will he, is running around screaming about the rights of the fetus. What about the rights of women? What about the rights of the potential mother? And I'm not trying to encourage you to have an abortion. I just know that these are not easy decisions, and since you are the one who will be having the child, it ought to be your decision. And since men are the ones that help that situation, they ought to help solve it. It is so very clear. I don't understand why we who are men are not in favor of the ERA. That is one of the things that really, really bothers me. I don't understand it, because it seems to me that we who are men would want to know that we who are women are with them because we like them, because we cared about them, not because the car payment is due, not because we don't have rent money, not because we cannot afford food. It seems to me that men would want to empower women to be as full as they can, so that they would know that the woman who is in their bed is there because she likes him and not because she needs something. It seems to me that men would be the first ones to be in favor of the ERA, and I've always been amazed that they've been threatened. It is time for women, it is overdue, for women to come into their own. We who are black and we who are white and we who are anything else, it is time for people to learn to stand up for themselves. It is time for those of you who are young women to quit acting like this is a drama. The question that you get all the time is, what is the role? What role should I play? This is no movie set. This is your life. And what role you play is not pertinent. What life you live is. You should live your own life. You should do with it as you see fit. The mistakes that you make should be yours, and what you do properly should be yours. You should take responsibility for yourself. You cannot have it both ways. A lot of you would like to. A lot of you would like to feel like I can skirt that line. I can ask the guys what they want, and then I can go on. You can't. You've got to decide who you are and what you're going to do with your life. I cheer for you to do that. I see no reason why you cannot expand your world. I see no reason why you don't do a lot better. Those of you who say, well, that's the case, we won't find a man, we can't get a man. I would submit that men are not commodities. They are not something that you go out and purchase. They're not. If I was a man, I would resent that whole damn scene that somehow or another a grown woman spends her life trying to find a grown man who will take care of her. That doesn't begin to make sense. That is an odious thought. We who are women need to get over that. No, it's a partnership. This is 1985. In 15 years, it'll be 2000. It is time for something new to happen. The only thing that's stopping most of us from going forward is our own minds. We are so afraid if we step out, somebody will criticize us. Somebody surely will, but I'd rather be criticized than be a fool. I'd rather somebody say, how come you did that, than me to sit on that same little dime and never move, and 10 years later realize what a mistake I made. I should have lived my own life. I'm simply suggesting to you who are women that most of what we talk about is specious in 1985. You should live your own life. You should expand your brain as far as it goes. You should do whatever your heart tells you to do. You should get out of Massachusetts. You should get out of the whole East Coast. You should get out. No, you should. You should get out of the United States. You should begin to meet people that are from someplace else. This is a tiny planet, man. It's a very small planet that we live on. You should see some of it. You should avail yourself of every possible resource, because there are some people in life who will not be happy until you have failed, until you have become exactly what they always wanted to see you. I'm not picking on the guys. I'm not picking on white people. I'm just saying this is a reality of life, that some people will never be happy until they pull you down. You have to learn, we who are women, to be afraid of nothing. One of the big terms to females, of course, is lesbian. Every time you say something about a woman, oh, you're just a dyke. You got to learn to ignore all of that, because if that's the case, you'll get stopped. Every time you try to do something for yourself, somebody will run a flag up it'll say gay, and you'll get stopped. You have got to learn not to be afraid to be a full person. I think that that's the most important thing that happens to any of us, international, national, local women, it doesn't matter. Whatever's going on, you have got to learn not to be afraid of being who you are, and not to let people who have a lesser vision stop you. Go forward, because we are at short time on this planet. There should be something new in the year 2000. We cannot face another century with the same level of crap that we faced the 20th and the 19th. Racism at its best is tiresome. We have done the racism trip. Everybody knows how to do racism. So there's nothing new. No, we're not learning anything here. Sexism has been done. I think one of the horrors of the 19th century clearly was Freud. Everybody's saying, what does woman want? The same thing that everybody else wants. That's not hard to figure out. She wants to be free. She wants to be productive. She wants to lead her own life. That's all. These are not very difficult concepts. What is hard is learning to believe in yourself, is finding friends and lovers who believe in you, is finding a way to lead your life to the point that it is meaningful to you. I think that your life should be a challenge, and it should be meaningful. Those of us who are looking for nirvana need to do drugs and need to get out of the rest of it, because there is no, I'm serious, there is no heaven on earth. Life itself is difficult. Life always has been, and it always will be. We can go back to Maid Marian and all that crap, and everybody says, isn't that fun? They didn't have running water. No, it wasn't fun. It just looks good because we made a movie out of it. You understand? It does. Tina Turner has shown us what it's like to be 50. So if you're worried about the future, just think about what you have in front of you. No, she looks great. She does. I love Tina Turner. I think she's great. And if I looked that good, I'd pair myself a pair of leather slacks and go on about my business, too. I love it. No, it's time. It's time that we stopped all of that. Women are always supposed to be young. That's boring, too. Men sit around old, fat, bald, and their feet stink. They do. And you're supposed to be young and cheerful. You know, it's time to cut that stuff out. It is. It's time for us to demand to be loved for who we are and who we can be. And if you have a situation that is not the case, you ought to drop that. You will not convert anyone. They will simply drag you down. If you have a boyfriend that's beating on you because the system is hard on him, you are a fool. There is no other word to use for it. You are not a punching bag, and you are not there to solve the system's problems. Give yourself a break. Nothing is sadder than some woman taking that level of crap from some man because you're making an animal out of him because you're pretending that it's normal. And you're making a fool out of yourself because you're taking it. That's not right. Somebody said, how do you correct it? You say, that hurts. You can try it with a pot of hot grits with a little lye. No, I'm not advocating violence. I'm just saying stop it. Because a lot of you are young, and a lot of you have boyfriends that are abusive, that are sexually abusive, that are emotionally abusive, that are physically abusive. You don't need to take that. You need to give yourself a break. You don't need therapy to not take that. You need to say goodbye and go on about your business. Now you're going to say, well, where will I get another man? I'm just going to point out, they are not for sale. You're going to have to look for one that cares about you. You're going to have to look hard, maybe. You may look for 4 years and never find it, but you will be better for the search than to have settled for someone who doesn't like himself or you. We all deserve a break. We deserve a friendship. We deserve something good in our lives, because for those of us who have been born, and everybody in this room was, we recognize one other thing: we will all die. That in itself is difficult. You don't have to look for anything more difficult than the fact that we, as a human species, recognize that this is not forever, that we, in fact, will one day face our own deaths. That is not an easy thing to contemplate. Most of you are young, so you probably haven't contemplated it. I simply submit that that is the difficulty of life. You don't need to add in anything else. In the meantime, most of us would like to contribute to the world in which we live. Why wouldn't you? Most of us would like to face the challenge of being a better human being. Why not? We should go forward because the future is all that we have. These people, and I fought black leadership to this degree, who are mired in the 50s. I was saying at dinner, and it's true, I think that black leadership would be so happy if white Americans would just put one sign up someplace that said colored only. It would make their day because they'd say, see, I told you. But we are finished with that period. I simply submit that it is gone. That does not say that there won't be problems. It does say that that is finished. We have moved from a du jour situation into something else. I'm not trying to stand here and tell you that everything is hunky-dory. I'm not crazy. But you cannot live 30 years ago. You must go forward. You must face today's challenges, and you must come up to them because you are capable. University of Massachusetts at Amherst does not have to look for any dumb Negroes. All of you are capable. It is important that you compete because competition is not a dirty word. One of the other horrors of the 19th century was Marx. Competition is not a dirty word. Competition at its finest should make us stronger. It should bring out the best in us. It doesn't mean that you're dirty. It doesn't mean that you undermine people. It means that you pit your ideas against somebody else's ideas, and you try to see, what can I learn? It means that you argue with open mind and an open heart, that you learn something when you talk to people, not that you sit there and go, okay, because that's crazy. It's time that women get out of their yes mode. There's nothing wrong with nurturing. I believe in nurturing. I have a kid. I nurture my kid. I got 2 dogs, too, you know. But there's a limit to it. There's a limit to it. You come out and you present your best. And you hope that somebody understands, and if they don't understand, you hope they ask a question. I'm just trying to say, give yourself a break. Face the challenges of being a full human being. It is so important, we who are third world women, that we not fall into the trap that the women of America fell into, so it takes them all this time to get out of it. Don't do that. Let the men grow up and face racism and their own sexism at the same time. They can handle 2 ideas at once. They're capable, sure. They're not that dumb. They just don't choose to. And if you don't encourage them to, if you wouldn't be a friend to them, to encourage them to see what they are doing. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all going to be wimps. They're going to light a cigar. They might like wrestling. I'm not against that. I'm just trying to say that they can handle it. And you and I, and it's a strange thing, you and I who are black women are told that we're so much stronger and the men are so much more fragile, and yet and still they're always beating us. They're coming out on top. No, it's not going to work. We have got to allow grown men to be grown. We have got to allow ourselves to be full human beings. I think that life is exciting. I look forward to space. I am a space nut. I look forward to black women going into space. I think it's nice what Sally Ride did. I applaud Sally Ride. I think it's nice what Bluford did. I think that sending a black man up there is nice. I want to see about a 45-year-old black woman who smokes too much go up. I do. Because I know if there's life up there, she's going to be the one that sees it. I do. She is. We look for something different. We look for the non-traditional. I want some of you to think about getting off this planet. This planet is not the greatest thing. It's just all we know. There's nothing that says that this is the end of it. We do know, of course, that there is life in space because we're there. And we are life. But there possibly is something else. And I think that's nice. And if not, what the hell? So you go up and say, I didn't find anything. Then let us confirm our knowledge. Let us try to learn something or to confirm what we know or to do something different. Because this won't do. I don't know if you're happy with your life. I know most people aren't. I hope that you're happy. But this won't do. It's too much tension. It's too much dissension. It's too much unhappiness as we are facing the earth today. There's something wrong. We start to look at dumb things like the Ethiopians starving out the Tigrians and the Eritreans. It's only a matter of time before somebody finally does what needs to be done in that situation, which is not at all make a record to send to Addis Ababa, but in fact to charge the Ethiopian government with genocide. If any other government on earth was starving out its people the way that they are, was impounding food the way that they are, was blowing up food that's trying to get up north the way that they are, we would charge genocide. It is only because they are colored that we don't want to mention maybe they're killing their people. It is time that we who are black quit playing games with each other. What is happening in Ethiopia is not right. We are not sending food to the Sudan, which is getting all of the overflow. You got 1,200,000 people right now in the Sudan who will be starving to death soon. Do we always have to wait on CBS cameras to take pictures of dying babies before somebody says there is a situation here. We have got to think it through because Ethiopia has become very chic. Though we have not at all aided the people who needed the food, there is no hunger. There is no hunger in Addis Ababa. The hunger is in Tigray and Eritrea. And if you're looking at the situation at all, you recognize that the Ethiopian government is determined to kill those people. It is not right. When we look at Africa, we recognize that there are many, many problems. None of them will lead themselves to cliche. None of them are as simple as let's don't do this or let's don't do that. All of them involve people. We have to give credit to the Zulus. We have to give credit to voices other than the ANC. We have to try to find out if you are interested in what's going on. But then if we look at America, we finally recognize just recently that we have 20 million starving people in America. I wear a purple tie, as you can see, and I wear it for Prince because, one, I'm a Prince fan. I think he's cute, and I think he makes good music. I also have on my UMass shirt because I was cold. Yeah, I think I deserve a hand for that. But one of the reasons that I like Prince, aside from the fact that he is a good musician, is that every place that young man has been on tour, he has raised food for the people in the cities where he is. I admire that. I admire the fact that Prince has said, I will do what I can for the people that are around me, that he has raised funds for Marva Collins' school, that he has taken on. When everybody was in L.A. singing, Prince went and rented the arena and performed, gave a concert for 3,500 handicapped children that he did at his own expense. And I think that that's important because I think that he does what he wants to do, but I think it's nice that he does what he can for the people that are there. So I appreciate Prince because he's not looking for an easy way. I know that we have problems here in America that we're going to have to solve. 54% of adult black Americans are illiterate. I know that that's a real problem. I know that if we cannot read, if your parents cannot read, well, not your parents, because your parents can mostly read. For parents who cannot read, we know that their kids cannot be educated because they never read to their kids, and then their kids have a reading problem, then nobody wants to admit it. We recognize, that's all I'm trying to say, that there are problems, that almost nothing is easy. People that are looking for easy answers are either nuts or refusing to deal with the real world. It is no easy answer. Nothing that we've talked about this evening, nothing that I could think of, is going to yield to a cliche solution. We have people-to-people problems, and they're going to have to be solved. We who are women should play a part in that. But the first problem that we should approach, the first situation that we should deal with is ourselves. We need to feel comfortable to become a better human being, to become a more involved human being, to reach out to try to make a change in ourselves, and then in the people around us, and then in the world. You don't have to follow that scenario. I just think it's important. I think it's important that you gain some confidence in who you are and what you can contribute. I think it's important that you learn to speak up, that you learn to think, that you read a newspaper every day for Christ's sake, that you know what's going on in the world, that your opinions are informed, and that you are committed to something. The first thing I want you to be committed to is your own mental health and your own basic happiness, using that in the Greek sense of being fulfilled, of knowing that you yourself have contributed something to planet Earth. I think it's so important because I think we lose all the time on that issue, that when it comes down to being 21, all of you want to get engaged. And I think that's crazy. I mean, I'm not against you. I happen to be a confirmed Spencer, but for those of you who want to get married, I'm glad. And I'm also glad for those of you who want to get divorced, because that's sick. And when you get married at 21, and then at 41, you wonder why you did that, and then somebody says you ought to stay with him. Why? Or her. Why? Nothing is permanent. You're a different person at 21 than you were at 11. Why wouldn't you be different again at 41? Just saying, give yourself a break. People talk all these cliches, and it's not working, and you're not happy, and I'm not happy, nobody's happy. Somebody ought to feel that they are a part of the situation, that they are part of making a change. If it's not going to be women, since we are not the beneficiaries of the system, then who will it be? If it's not going to be black women, then who will it be? If we cannot make a change within ourselves and our community, then where will the changes coming? Where will they come from? What will happen? I think that it's important that we begin to rethink a lot of what we hear, and most of it, that's an old cliche too. Believe half of what you hear, half of what you see, and none of what you hear. I think it's time to rethink who it is we think we are, and to rebuild ourselves into a new woman. I don't know what it is. I am not a movement. I am not a cult. This is not Nikki. Giovanni teaches us. It just says it's not. I just believe that you have a capability that nobody else has, and that's to run your own life. It's one of the little secrets that you hold. Everybody tells you what to do. You need to do something that you want. You need to spend enough time quietly with yourself to figure out what it is in life that makes your day and how to go about doing that. You need a break. You deserve. Who says that? McDonald's? You deserve. You do. You deserve a break today. You deserve a friend, but you deserve to be a friend to yourself. I cheer for you because we're all human beings in this thing. It's not to say that we're right, not to say that we're wrong. It's simply to say that we try. You need to try to live your life. You are not an observer of your own life. You are the major situation. Look into your own hearts. Figure out what it is that you want, and then go get it. Why not? Everybody else will. Why not? I'm going to read some poetry. I missed my shirt. I don't have anything to wipe my glasses on. Yeah, I thought this was nifty. I was coming from Florida, and it was warm. It was 70 degrees this morning. I lost 50 degrees without even thinking hard. I'm going to read one of my favorite poems. This is my poem. Actually, my poem at 40. I am 41. That's the hardest age to remember. I don't know if any of us would be. 40 you remember. I think that 42 or 43 you'll remember, but 41 is really weird, because you always think of yourself as 40, and then you go, no, I'm not 40. I ran into somebody in the elevator, and he's a big guy. He's 6 feet tall, and he said, I read you in high school, and I'm going, oh, no. The strangest feeling. This is probably one of my more abstract poems, if not, in many respects, the most abstract poem that I wrote. And I'm really quite fond of it, and I hope that you like it, or if you don't like it, I hope that you're polite. And I won't ask you to like any of the rest of them. It's a poem called I Am She. I am she, making rainbows in coffee cups, watching fish jump after midnight in my dreams. On the stove left front burner is the stew already chewed, certain to burn as I dream of waves of nothingness. Floating to shore, riding a low moon on a slow cloud, I am she who writes the poems. I won't even ask, did you really mean it? No, it's one of my favorite. This is a persona poem. It's called The Life I Led. It's a persona poem on growing old. This is my poem at 35. And one of the things about this poem is that I made a discovery, having written it, I made a discovery in that you cannot be female and sane and look at daytime TV. You know your podium is falling apart here? Did they just do this for the women, or they do this for everybody? And the damn thing's falling apart. Plywood, man. I discovered that you cannot be sane and a woman and look at daytime TV. You can only do 2 of those things. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but like 8 o'clock in the morning, it is considered that the men go to work, right? So, of course, that's when all the crazy ads. I mean, at 6:30 to 8, everything is serious. This is what happened in the world today, and you get the tractor ads and all of that kind of stuff, Fly Delta and all of that. At 8 o'clock, they start on you. And they do. And if you're not very careful, it'll make you crazy. I mean, it's 8:01. The camera shows this really neat house. This little lady sitting in the corner, and it's panning along. She's got little hands folded, white hair, the little bun. You've seen it. And she's going, some people call these age spots. And the camera zaps down on her hands, But I call them ugly, What's a woman to do? And it kind of makes you mad. I mean, it makes me mad. First of all, you find yourself checking your hands for liver spots. And you're going, wow, no wonder I'm all alone. My hands are a mess. But then you think this woman is 82 years old. If he's going to leave her because of a few liver spots, she's well off without him. And it's that kind of thing. But Porcelana, and I have to laugh at Porcelana, they got it made because they not only do the ad, use Porcelana and keep these spots away, but if it doesn't work, use it again. And you think, wow, you get away clean on this stuff, It drives you crazy. But the whole thing is to make women sick. They have that one, I hate a lot of ads, and you end up talking back to the TV because they got the one, this is a grown man, you've seen that. Now, you know, and I know, if you step into a shower with running water, the chances are about 100% that you're going to get wet, right? Now, this is a grown man probably on his way to work. He probably supervises people. He steps into the shower, right? He is wet, turns off the shower, calls out, "Hun, can you bring me a towel?" Didn't he know when he stepped into that shower? That's true. That he was going to need it, you know, but hey, she's his friend. She doesn't go, "Dummy, what the hell do you think you were going to do? Shake it off or something?" She brings him a towel, right? It is a colored towel. It looks brown on my TV. And he goes, instead of "Thank you, dear," he goes, "It's maddening. Are you sure it's clean?" Well, the answer is, are you wet or what? No question about it. None at all. It drives you crazy. Then her conscience comes in and they noticed you didn't use Downy. You think, what the hell is this? You know, you get that whole ring around the collar. Doesn't that upset you? That whole, you know, he's standing there, "Hon, where's my shirt? Where did you leave it?" She hands him the shirt and he's going, "It's dirty. There's a ring around the collar. Can't you wash your neck?" No, it's not right. It's not right. It is really, I mean, it drives you crazy because as a woman, you're thinking, I'm responsible for straightening this situation out. Hey, it's not right. One of the things, and I do point out, we don't drop you people because you get old or because you get fat, but you all try to make us feel guilty because we do a normal thing. You got that ad where she's sitting there in the mirror, "John felt old looking at my gray hair." This is the Grecian formula ad. No, John didn't feel old looking at your hair. John is old. No matter what color your hair is, he is still old. That will not change. And the whole thing, it's an attack on you. I think it's nice to grow old, is what I'm saying. I think we who are women need to be much more supportive of we who are women, because it's women that'll depress you. You know, you turn 38 and, wow, really pushing the big 40. Well, you hope so. What's the alternative? You know, but women will do that, you know, and for those of you who are young, I'm not against you getting married. I mean, you know, whatever you want to do is fine with me. But they'll start on you in your senior year in college. You know, all of a sudden, we who are women who have terribly unhappy marriages, you know, aren't you engaged yet? You know, hell no. If you're an example of what it is, there's no way I'm going to be bothered with that. But it's the whole game. You know, everybody wants you to be unhappy. Or they'll start on you 25 years old. Isn't your biological clock ticking? And you think, wow, there's something more to me than doing babies. And for those of you who want babies, I'm glad. You know, it's a lot of kids around, you can do it. But they try to make you think that the only thing in life is this kid, without admitting, you know, kids are a lot of trouble, which they are. They're expensive, which they are. And they get on your nerves, which they do. Now, that doesn't mean that's true. Nobody wants to admit it. If you don't want to admit that, then you can't possibly like them. Because if you think some little kid is going to be hunky-dory all the time and isn't that cute, you're out of your mind. You will end up throwing that kid up against the wall the first time he shits and you don't want him to. Or the first night you have to sit up all night with him. Or as my son said to me, "Mama, you get on my nerves too." I thought that was real good. Because I was about tired of him that day. I said, "You're getting on my nerves." He said, "Well, you get on my nerves sometime." I thought, that's fair. You go to your room and I'm going to go to mine. It's fair. He's a little boy when he said that. And I've always respected him for saying that. I'm glad that I reared a kid that could tell me, "Bug off." I am. But I think that if you're not going to do that, you don't want to be bothered. And people play games with each other. You know, I don't even recommend kids, and I like mine. I think it's such a personal decision. No, I mean, I get tired of it. I wrote a poem on growing old. It's a long introduction to it. Because I support it. I think it's the neatest thing in the world. I think anybody that doesn't love you for your wrinkles and for your rough hands and for all the other things that you have, you don't need that person. Get rid of them now and save yourself the trouble later. Go out and find somebody who does, you know. Wrote a poem called "The Life I Led." I know my upper arms will grow flabby. It's true of all the women in my family. I know that the purple veins, like dead fish in the Seine, will dot my legs one day, and my hands will wither while my hair turns grayish-white. I know that. One day my teeth will move when my lips smile, and a flutter of hair will appear below my nose. I hope my skin doesn't change to those blotchy colors. I want my menses to be undifficult. I'd very much prefer staying firm and slim, to grow old, like a vintage wine fermenting in old wooden vats with style. I'd like to be exquisite, I think. I will look forward to grandchildren and my flowers, all my knickknacks in their places, and that quiet of the bombs not falling in Cambodia settling over my sagging breast. I hope my shoulder finds a head that needs nestling, and my feet find a footstool after good soaking with Epsom salts. I hope I die warmed by the life that I tried to live. I'm a tennis fan, and I wrote a poem for Billie Jean King. You may recall a couple of years ago, what's her name, Marilyn Barnett sued Billie Jean King for life support, which had to be the all-time joke, because I submit that nothing's so good that anybody's going to take care of it the rest of their life. That's absurd. I don't care who you are. Same problem with alimony. But mostly I'm a fan of Billie Jean King's, and I resented having to be involved in things that was none of my business. And I had a problem actually writing a poem, because when it broke, Cincinnati, which is my hometown, it's a very hypocritical city. And Cincinnati is one of those places, you know, Marilyn Barnett sued Billie Jean King, and this was like a slow news day because it made headlines. And you think, first of all, you know, it's not really headline news that some woman sued some woman. I mean, this could not be the first time you've ever heard of that. Are you shocked or what, you know? But secondly, I resented it because all of a sudden they're saying, well, you know, Billie Jean King shouldn't come to Cincinnati because after all, she'll have an influence. Like everybody's going to turn gay. I'm a tennis fan, so I may be gay now, you know. And it's, you know, it's absurd. It's the same. That's true. It's absurd. And the black community, as you all know, is really homophobic, and I think that's one of the regrettable aspects of our community, because people, I may be a nigger, but I ain't gay, as if they've made a statement. And you get tired of that, and then you get tired of the male homophobic, you know, situation, because when the guys are gay, they cover up for them. When the women are gay, it makes headline. One of the things that I love about all the things that happen is that every now and then something happens in relationship to something that makes sense. Let me say that another way. Cincinnati was going through, Billie Jean King should not be allowed to come back, like she was sitting someplace vague in Cincinnati, can she come? We should not invite her back to Cincinnati. I loved it. We used to host the Virginia Slim, we being Cincinnati, hosted the Virginia Slim tennis tournament every February. Now this made my day. This particular year when Billie Jean was sued by, what's her name? This particular year, Martina Navratilova was the big draw. So nobody was worried because we got 18,000 seats, you understand. And you know that with Martina, you can pull them in from Cleveland, no problem. Martina decided that she needed a rest. For those of us who are Billie Jean King fans, we just started waiting because we knew what was coming. They invited Chris Everett Lloyd to come. And Chris said she was going to come, but then 2 weeks later she had to bow out because she and John were having problems, and they decided they would go and solve their problems. So those of us who were Billie Jean King fans just started laughing because we knew what was coming. Because the only other woman tennis player that can sell tickets is Billie Jean King. All of a sudden, between August and December, Cincinnati had this great change of heart. We ought to invite Miss King. I love it, because when it's their damn pocketbooks, all of a sudden there's no morality. You know, you almost wanted to write a letter to the editor and say, whoa, aren't you afraid? You know, give me a break here. But you didn't do that. You just waited until they decided, well, we're going to invite Billie Jean King to head Virginia Slims. Billie Jean, of course, came in just like a lady, and she says how delighted she is to be once again in Cincinnati. We loved it, because it was unnecessary in the first place. The girl sells tennis tickets. She does not sell tennis tickets to her bedroom, and it was none of our business. And Miss Barnett was dead wrong, because whatever they were doing, it was none of our business. It should never have become what it was. I wanted to write a poem, because as a fan, I was just mad about it. It was just, to me, a deliberate way of trying to hurt somebody. And as a fan, I just thought this is not fair to anybody. I mean, Theragram decides they're going to drop Billie Jean King. I guess, you know, if you take a Theragram vitamin or something, you'll end up with Marilyn. I don't know. But it just, no, it makes you mad, you know, and you think, then they put that little stupid guy. You see that Theragram ad? I got a Theragram for you. You know, this couldn't be an improvement. Could not be. I mean, I wouldn't take Theragram for all the tea in China. I had pneumonia. My doctor said, take a multivitamin. And I said, what's that? He said, Theragram or something like that. I said, hey, do you realize what Theragram did to Billie Jean King? And my doctor's very sensitive, and he says, I'll never recommend him again. I said, I'm glad. You know, write and tell him that, because it's stupid. I mean, that kind of thing. I wanted to write a poem because I'm a fan, and I think that, I think it's proper. So I wrote a poem called Mirrors for Billie Jean King. The face in the window is not the face in the mirror. Mirrors aren't for windows, they would block the light. Mirrors are for bedroom walls or closet doors. Windows show who we hope to be. Mirrors reflect who we are. Mirrors, like religious fervors, are private and actually uninteresting to those not involved. Windows open up, bring a fresh view. Windows make us vulnerable. The French teach us in love there is always one who kisses and one who offers the cheek. There is many a slip twixt the cup and the lip. That's the reason napkins were born. In love, there is always the hurtee and the hurter. Even when the hurter doesn't want to hurt, the hurtee selfishly strikes. Lips, like brownish gray gulls infested by contact with polluted water circling a New Jersey garbage heap, flap in anticipation. Lips, like an old, pot-bellied, unshaven voyeur with the grease of his specialty packed under his cracked, jagged fingernails, move with the glee of getting a good lick in. Lips, like a blind man describing an elephant by touch, give inadequate information. There are things that we know yet don't want to see. Not things like abused children, that's public pain, and light must be focused to bring the healing heat. Not things like battered wives, that's public policy if we allow silence to cover the cries. Nor things like the emotionally troubled. Only Dick and Jane or Ozzie and Harriet are always smiling. Not things like people in wheelchairs who need sidewalk access, nor things like the unsighted who need braille in public elevators, but things like love and promises made after midnight. The rituals and responsibilities of courtship have no place in the courtyard, are not a part of the public sea. Pillow talk is only a movie starring Doris Day or a song by Sylvia, something delightful if you're lucky or necessary if you're needy, but always private, since you're human. The hands of children break drinking glasses, dinner plates, wooden buses, dolls with long blonde hair, Lego structures down. While playing blind man's bluff, flower heads and beds suffer little gym-toed carelessnesses. When playing kickball, baseball, football, soccer, windows unshuttered shatter. It's only natural. They are children. Childish adults want to break mirrors, want to shatter lives. While eating and playing paraphernalia are easily replaced, toys forgotten, flowers regrown, windows quickly repaired, sometimes with a scolding, sometimes with a shrug. Mirrors broken promise 7 years, bad luck. Like Humpty Dumpty lives, once exposed to great heights, seem destined for great falls, and are seldom properly repaired. Some people choose heroes because they kiss a horse and ride alone into the sunset. Some choose a hero because they rob the rich and give to the poor. Some want to emulate lives that discovered cures for exotic diseases or made a lot of money off of foolish endeavors. One of my heroes is a tennis player who has the courage of her game and her life. It was a mistake for sure if courtship turns to courts, if letters written to share a feeling come back to testify against you. It was a mistake to choose the myopic, selfish, greedy as a repository of a feeling. It was a mistake to want that which does not want you, but what you can do. But it cannot be a mistake to have cared. It cannot be an error to have tried. It cannot be incorrect to have loved. It is illogical to spit upon a face you once kissed. It is mean to blacken eyes which once beheld you. It is damnable to punish the best within. One of my heroes embraced Medusa, but the mirror will not break, it only shattered. The window did not crack, it only opened. I am not ashamed, only sad, not for my hero, but for those who fail to see the true championship match. Don't look now. I'm fading away into the gray of my mornings or the blues of every night. Is it that my nails keep breaking, or maybe the corn on my second little piggy? Things keep popping out on my face or of my life. It seems no matter how I try, I become more difficult to hold. I am not an easy woman to want. They have asked the psychiatrists, psychologists, politicians, and social workers what this decade will be known for. There is no doubt. It is loneliness. If loneliness were a grape, the wine would be vintage. If it were a wood, the furniture would be mahogany. But since it is life, it is cotton candy on a rainy day, the sweet, soft essence of possibility never quite maturing. I have prided myself on being in that great tradition, albeit circus, that the show must go on, though in my community, the vernacular is one monkey, don't stop the show. We all line up at some midway point to thread our way through the boredom and futility, looking for the blue ribbon and gold medal. Mostly, these are seen as food labels. We are consumed by people who sing the same old song, stay, as sweet as you are, in my corner, or perhaps just a little bit longer. But whatever you do, don't change. Baby, baby, don't change. Well, something needs to change. Everything, some say, will change. I need a change of pace, face, attitude, and life, though I long for my loneliness. I know I need something or someone or I strangle my words as easily as I do my tears. I stifle my screams as frequently as I flash my smile. It means nothing. I am cotton candy on a rainy day, the unrealized dream of an idea unborn. I share with the painters the desire to put a three-dimensional picture on a one-dimensional surface. Childhood remembrances are always a drag if you're black. You always remember things like living in Woodlawn with no inside toilet. And if you become famous or something, they never talk about how happy you were to have your mother all to yourself and how good the water felt when you got your bath from one of those big tubs that folk in Chicago barbecue in. And somehow when you talk about home, it never gets across how much you understood their feelings as the whole family attended meetings about Hollydale. And even though you remember, your biographers never understand your father's pain as he sells his stock and another dream goes. And though you're poor, it isn't poverty that concerns you. And though they fought a lot, it isn't your father's drinking that makes any difference, but only that everybody is together, and you and your sister have happy birthdays and very good Christmases. And I really hope no white person ever has cause to write about me, because they never understand black love is black wealth. And they'll probably talk about my hard childhood and never understand that all the while I was quite happy. I'm going to read one of my favorite poems. Not that the others weren't favorites, but this is a favorite in a different way. It's called Ego Tripping. I was born in the Congo. I walked to the Fertile Crescent and built the Sphinx. I designed a pyramid so tough that a star that only glows every 100 years falls into the center, giving divine, perfect light. I am bad. I sat on the throne drinking nectar with Allah. I got hot and sent an ice age to Europe to cool my thirst. My oldest daughter is Nefertiti. The tears from my birth pains created the Nile. I am a beautiful woman. I gazed on the forest and burned out the Sahara Desert. With a packet of goat's meat and a change of clothes, I crossed it in 2 hours. I am a gazelle. So swift, you can't catch me. For a birthday present when he was 3, I gave my son Hannibal an elephant. He gave me Rome for Mother's Day. My strength flows ever on. My son Noah built a new ark, and I stood proudly at the helm as we sailed on a soft summer day. I turned myself into myself and was Jesus. Men intoned my loving name. All praises, all praises. I am the one who would save. I sowed diamonds in my backyard. My bowels deliver uranium. The filings from my fingernails are semi-precious jewels. On a trip north, I caught a cold and blew my nose, giving oil to the Arab world. I am so hip, even my errors are correct. I sailed west to reach east and had to round off the earth as I went. The hair from my head thinned and gold was laid across 3 continents. I am so perfect, so divine, so ethereal, so surreal, I cannot be comprehended except by my permission. I mean, I can fly like a bird in the sky. Once, a snowflake fell on my brow, and I loved it so much. And I kissed it, and it was happy, and called its cousins and brothers, and a web of snow engulfed me. Then I reached to love them all, and I squeezed them, and they became a spring rain, and I stood perfectly still and was a flower. I like a love poem because it's fun. It's something to do. Keeps you off the street. Clears up your skin if you're lucky. This is a little PG love poem. It's called My House. I only want to be there to kiss you as you want to be kissed when you need to be kissed, where I want to kiss you because it's my house, and I plan to live in it. I really need to hug you when I want to hug you as you like to hug me. Does this sound like a silly poem? I mean, it's my house. And I want to fry pork chops and bake sweet potatoes and call them yams, because I run the kitchen, and I can stand the heat. I spent all winter in carpet stores gathering patches so I could make a quilt. Does this really sound like a silly poem? I mean, I want to keep you warm. And my windows might be dirty, but it's my house. And if I can't see out sometimes, they can't see in either. English isn't a good language to express emotion through. Mostly, I imagine, because people try to speak English instead of trying to speak through it. I don't know. Maybe this is a silly poem. I'm saying it's my house, and I'll make fudge and call it love and touch my lips to the chocolate warmth and smile at old men and call that revolution, because what's real is really real. And I still like men in tight pants, because everybody has something to give and, more important, needs something to take. And this is my house, and you make me happy. So this is your poem. I'm going to close on the poem that you had in the paper, which is a fun poem. It's called I Wrote a Good Omelet. It's one of those crazy poems. If you've ever been in love and you've been crazy with it, you know exactly. You know, it's one of those, where are you going, to the bathroom? You know, come right back. I'm always laughing about it, but that's not well. I mean, it cannot be sustained. It's fun to do. You should do it once in a lifetime and recognize this is my crazy falling in love, and then you're going about your business. I ended up writing this poem. Somebody was asking me how much the experience plays into what you do. Not all that much, but this is one of those poems I ended up writing because somebody said to me, well, what did you do today? And I said, I wrote a good omelet and ate a hot poem. And you know how you realize you got a line, so you just say, oh, I got to do that. But that's, no, because I'm a Gemini, so I fall in love pretty easily, and luckily I fall out at just about the same rate, so it's never, you know, anything that anybody has to take seriously, but it's a lot of fun to do while you're, you know, it passes the time of day. It's a little nutty love poem called I Wrote a Good Omelet. I wrote a good omelet and ate a hot poem after loving you. Buttoned my car and drove my coat home in the rain after loving you. I goed on red and stopped on green, floating somewhere in between being here and being there after loving you. I rolled my bed, turned down my hair, slightly confused, but I don't care. Laid out my teeth and gargled my gown, and then I stood and laid me down to sleep after loving you.